NIO stock is finally showing its first real sign of resilience after several sessions of steady decline. On Thursday afternoon, the stock is trading around $4.96, up more than 3% on the day, and what makes today's move important is the shift in tone. The stock isn't just bouncing randomly. It isn't spiking on a rumor. It isn't reacting to a sudden headline. Instead, NIO is rising in a controlled, steady way that suggests buyers are stepping back in, short sellers are taking profits, and the wave of sentiment-driven selling that dominated earlier in the week is beginning to fade. The past few days have been difficult for NIO. The stock broke below the $5 mark, slipped toward the 470 range, and traded with heavy downward momentum. None of that selling was driven by negative company news. There were no new filings, no operational issues, no warnings about deliveries, and no fresh regulatory pressure. The selling came from sentiment, technical breakdowns, and risk-off pressure surrounding Chinese ADRs. When a stock falls for reasons unrelated to its business performance, it often rebounds as soon as those external forces exhaust themselves. And that appears to be what is happening today. One of the clearest explanations for today's strength is the fact that NIO entered oversold territory on Wednesday. Once the stock broke below $5, stop-loss orders triggered, short sellers piled in, and momentum trades pushed the stock lower. But oversold conditions do not last forever. When a stock falls too far, too fast, and without a fundamental reason behind the decline, dip buyers begin to step in. Algorithms detect reversal conditions. Traders look for value. And short sellers lock in gains. These forces combine to create upward pressure, and that is part of today's upward move. Short covering plays a major role here. When a stock experiences a steep decline, especially after breaking a major psychological level, many traders set short positions expecting further weakness. But when the stock stabilizes or begins to reverse, those traders often buy back shares to secure profits. That buying activity contributes to a steady climb rather than a sudden spike. The kind of upward movement seen today, gradual and firm, is typical of short covering mixed with early dip buying. Another factor influencing today's strength is the shift in broader market tone. While the overall market hasn't surged dramatically, it has held up well, and there is less pressure on Chinese stocks today compared to earlier in the week. Chinese ADRs have been trading in a risk-off environment for several sessions, but that pressure is not as intense today. When that macro pressure softens, NIO has room to breathe. Even a neutral sentiment across Chinese names can provide a better backdrop for NIO to rebound from oversold levels. It is also important to note what has not happened today. There have been no negative announcements. Nothing has changed inside NIO's operations. Deliveries remain strong on a year-over-year basis. Production continues. Overseas expansion plans are ongoing. The fundamentals did not deteriorate this week. The selling that pushed the stock lower was not caused by operational weakness. And when selling is not tied to fundamentals, the bounce back can come quickly once the downward momentum loses steam. Many investors have been asking whether today's move could signal the beginning of stabilization. While one green day does not confirm a full reversal, today's action does show that NIO is capable of finding buyers at lower levels. The fact that the stock is approaching the $5 level again is significant. That level acted as support before the breakdown, and now it acts as resistance. If NIO can reclaim $5 and hold it, that would signal that the breakdown may have been temporary and sentiment-driven. If the stock struggles and gets rejected near $5, then it may need more time before establishing a new trend. Today's price action also highlights the gap between the stock's decline and the company's actual performance. NIO's underlying fundamentals have not collapsed. The company delivered more than 40,000 vehicles in October, marking a record month. Overseas shipments exceeded 400 units recently, showing expansion momentum. Production for the ES8 continues to ramp. The Firefly brand is preparing for broader European entry. These developments paint a picture of a company still growing and executing. None of that was reflected in the downward price action earlier this week, which makes today's bounce more meaningful. Investor sentiment plays a large role in determining short-term movements, especially for a stock like NIO. When sentiment is fragile, even neutral or mildly negative macro conditions can drag the stock down. But when sentiment begins to stabilize, even modestly, the stock responds quickly. Today's move suggests sentiment is shifting slightly more positive or at least slightly less negative. Buyers are willing to take positions. Shorts are willing to cover. And the stock is no longer sliding uncontrollably. The overall EV sector is also experiencing a mixed environment. Some EV stocks are rising, others are lagging, and the sector has been struggling to find a consistent narrative. NIO's rebound today shows that even within a challenging sector, individual names can find strength when selling pressure overextends. This makes today's move more than just a technical blip. It reflects a change in behavior among traders who were previously avoiding the stock. Another nuance in today's price action is volume behavior. The volume today is healthy but not chaotic. That suggests the move isn't driven by panic buying or speculation. Instead, the market is naturally absorbing shares without the heavy selling pressure seen earlier in the week. When the market can absorb shares without dropping the price, that shows the supply of sellers is drying up. After several sessions of relentless selling, today indicates that dynamic may finally be shifting. Looking forward, the next major catalyst for NIO is the upcoming delivery report. These delivery numbers are watched closely by traders and long-term holders alike. Strong numbers can serve as a fresh spark of momentum. Softer numbers may reinforce the need for patience. Some of today's buying could be positioning ahead of that catalyst. Traders often enter positions before expected news, especially when the stock is trading near multi-year lows. The larger question remains whether today marks the beginning of a broader recovery or simply a pause in the downtrend. The answer depends on how the stock behaves around $5. Reclaiming that level would indicate strength and the possibility of a trend reversal. Failing to break above it would suggest the stock may continue to trade in a lower range until more concrete news arrives. For now, the important message is that NIO is showing real resilience. After a series of declines driven by sentiment and technical pressure, the stock is reacting in a way that shows buyers stepping back into the market. Today represents a shift in tone, a moment where the market is reconsidering whether the selling went too far. This type of day matters for traders and long-term holders because it helps establish where the stock may find stability. Whether the bounce holds or not, today is the first day in a while where NIO is trading from a position of strength rather than weakness. It signals that the market is beginning to find balance after a heavy emotional sell-off. And as the session progresses, investors will watch closely to see whether NIO can build on this momentum, reclaim the $5 level, and potentially set up for a stronger finish to the week.